Night. Ephesus, 356 BC. Fire climbs the columns of the most beautiful building in the ancient world. 200 years to build, one night to destroy. By morning, the Temple of Artemis, one of the 7 wonders, is ash. The man who did it doesn't run. He doesn't hide. He waits to be caught. And when they finally drag him in front of the magistrates, they ask him the only question that matters. Why? He doesn't say he hated the goddess. He doesn't say he hated the city. He says he wanted his name to outlive him. That's it. That's the whole reason. A man burned down a wonder of the world because he could not stand the thought of dying and no one remembering he existed. Somewhere in you, there's a version of that fear. Not the arson, the other part. The part that wonders what happens to you, not your body, but the fact that you were ever here. Once the people who knew you are gone too. Psychologists have a name for the drive underneath this. Historians have watched empires organize entire bureaucracies around it. And if you look closely enough, you'll find it quietly shaping decisions you've already made this year. The photo you posted, the promotion you chased, the story you keep telling about yourself at dinner parties. This is not a video about death. This is a video about the thing people fear more than death, being erased from it. His name was Herostratus. And here's the part of the story that should unsettle you. The city didn't just execute him. They tried something crueler. They passed a law making it illegal, punishable by death, for anyone to ever speak his name again. Think about what that law actually admits. You don't outlaw the mention of someone's name because you think they're irrelevant. You do it because you're afraid they might not be. The law had one job: make Herostratus disappear from memory completely. It failed spectacularly. A Greek historian named Theopompus recorded the whole event anyway, including the name the law tried to erase. And because he wrote it down, we're still saying that name 24 centuries later in a language that didn't exist yet, on a platform nobody could have imagined. There's even a word for what he wanted, born from his own failure to disappear: Herostratic. Fame pursued through destruction, at any cost, even the cost of being remembered as a monster. He didn't get the ending he wanted. He didn't get remembered as great. He got something else instead, proof that being remembered, even for the worst reason, imaginable, felt to him like a better fate than vanishing quietly. We're coming back to it. Here's the uncomfortable part. Herostratus wasn't broken. He was just loud about something everyone carries quietly. In the 1980s, a group of psychologists, Jeff Greenberg, Sheldon Solomon, and Tom Pischinski, built on an idea from the anthropologist Ernest Becker, who'd argued years earlier that human beings are the only animal aware it's going to die, and that this awareness is quietly terrifying in a way most of us never examine directly. Their theory got a name: terror management theory. The idea is simple, and once you hear it, you can't unsee it. Humans manage the terror of knowing they'll die by building things that feel like they'll outlast death. A family, a reputation, a body of work, a name on a building, a book, a gravestone, a group identity bigger than one lifetime. Psychologists call this symbolic immortality. You won't literally live forever, but if your name, your ideas, your children, your legacy keep existing after your body doesn't, some part of the fear quiets down. Which means the fear was never really about dying, it was about disappearing completely. Dying is losing your body. Being forgotten is losing the fact that you ever had one. And this doesn't just explain arsonists and emperors. Researchers have found this same drive sitting underneath things you'd never think to connect to death at all. Why people cling harder to their group identity when reminded of mortality? Why builders and founders obsess over naming things after themselves? Why the wealthy fund wings of hospitals and museums instead of just writing a check anonymously? Somewhere in almost every ambition you've ever had, there's a quieter question underneath it. Will this be enough that I mattered? If the fear of being forgotten is universal, then so is its opposite, the power of deciding who gets forgotten. And nobody understood that power better than the Romans. They had a practice historians now call damnatio memoriae, condemnation of memory. When an emperor fell from favor, the Senate didn't just strip his titles. They erased him, chiseled his name off inscriptions, melted down coins bearing his face, recarved his statues into someone else's likeness. The most brutal example belongs to a teenager named Geta. In 211 AD, Geta co-ruled Rome with his older brother Caracalla, a partnership built on mutual hatred neither of them hid well. Their mother arranged a meeting meant to reconcile them. Caracalla's guard stabbed Geta to death in her arms instead. Caracalla didn't stop at murder. He ordered Geta erased from the empire completely. Every statue, every inscription, every coin. On the Arch of Septimius Severus, which still stands in Rome today, you can see where Geta's image used to be. Except you can't. Not really. You can see the absence of it, a conspicuously blank space where a face should be. The erasure is so obvious, it does the opposite of what it was built for. It doesn't make Geta disappear. It makes his disappearance the first thing you notice. Rome wasn't the only civilization to try this. Egyptian rulers did it to Hatshepsut after her death, chiseling her image out of temple walls. Greek city-states did it to disgraced generals, deleting their names from naval records. Even a Chinese emperor, centuries later, tried rewriting an entire war out of the official record to erase his predecessor. Every single one of these campaigns shares the same quiet irony. We only know they happened because the erasure left a mark. The blank space became the evidence. The silence became the loudest part of the record, which raises the real question underneath all of it. Not can you erase someone, but does anyone ever actually disappear clean, or does the attempt to erase them just become the new way we remember they existed? Here's where the story has to change scale, because the fear of being forgotten isn't reserved for emperors and arsonists. Most people who experience it will never burn down a temple or command an army to forget somebody. They just live quiet lives and hope it was enough. Off the coast of the Bronx sits an island most New Yorkers have never set foot on. It's called Hart Island. Since 1869, it's been the city's potter's field, the burial ground of last resort. More than 1 million people are buried there, not in named plots with headstones, in trenches stacked in plain wooden coffins marked only by a number. The people buried there weren't emperors anyone tried to punish. They were people the world simply stopped keeping track of. Unclaimed, unidentified, or too poor for anyone to pay for a marker with a name on it. Homeless, isolated, cut off from the people who might have remembered them. No decree erased them. No Senate voted on it. It just happened quietly, the way most forgetting actually happens. Not through violence, but through distance. Through nobody being left who remembers to ask where you are. And that's the part of this fear that Herostratus and Geta never had to face. Theirs was dramatic, a fear so loud it justified arson, so threatening it required an empire's worth of law to manage. The fear on Hart Island is the version most humans actually live with. Not, will they try to erase me? But will anyone notice if they don't have to? So here's what all of this actually tells us. We tend to think the opposite of being remembered is being forgotten. It isn't. The opposite of being remembered is being irrelevant to begin with, never having existed in anyone's story at all. And humans seem to sense instinctively that this is the far worse fate. That's why Herostratus chose infamy over silence. Why Caracalla couldn't just let his brother's memory fade. He had to fight it, which meant admitting how powerful it still was. Why a blank space on a Roman arch draws your eye faster than the faces that survived. Erasure, done loudly, is still a form of attention. The only thing that truly disappears is what nobody ever tries to erase, because nobody thought it was worth the effort. Which means the real fear humans carry was never really about death or even about being forgotten. It's about mattering. about leaving a mark big enough that someone, somewhere, has to make a decision about what to do with it, remember it, erase it, rebuild it, argue about it. Anything except walk past it like it was never there. Maybe that's why we build monuments and start families and chase titles and post photos we'll never look at again and whisper the names of the dead at dinner tables years after they're gone. Not because we think we'll live forever, but because some part of us has always understood the real deal being made. You don't get to choose whether you die. You only get to choose what you leave behind. That makes it harder for the world to forget you were ever here.